Hey, how's it going? It's Brandon with PPC Powerhouse, and today we're going to be auditing this Google Ads account. Now, starting off, they are an event and equipment or catering hire company. They're over in Yorkshire, which is over in England, but primarily they're basically just selling or renting out equipment, tableware, refrigeration, furniture, pretty much anything for catering and events. Definitely something interesting. It's a niche I really haven't heard much about before, but let's go ahead and dive on in. Now, when I am auditing accounts, I like to start off looking at the last 60 days. Typically 60 to 90 days just to kind of get a good grasp on where the account is, both in terms of metrics and performance. Starting off though, I do actually kind of like to work backwards. So let's take a look at their conversion goals first so we can get an idea on what they're tracking and what they're not properly tracking. Now, scrolling down, they have a lot, right? There's going to be a lot of conversion actions in this account. Something that jumps out to me off the bat is this right here. So they have 14 purchases over the last 60 days, 3,000 in revenue, but they aren't using purchase as a primary goal in any of their campaigns. How do we know that? Because right here it says 0 out of 13 campaigns are using purchase. So it's really not applied to any of the campaigns, but yet they have it marked as primary. Me personally, I would consider a purchase goal the primary conversion action, right? I mean, they are getting online sales. Obviously, most people will inquire through leads via a form, request, or just call them directly. However, you can order directly online and place your order, which is exactly what this goal is here. But that's not being counted towards as a primary conversion goal. So that needs to be adjusted for sure. Scrolling down further, most other conversions look good. Add to cart, begin checkout, all of those will of course stay as secondary as those are not primary conversion actions. Furthermore, I can see that we do have calls from ads, so that's good. Obviously, they do have extension calls within their ad extensions. That's fine. This is the default conversion goal that Google went ahead and set up. But furthermore, they have two separate conversion goals for website calls. One is called website goals, but is just calls from ads, which doesn't work like that. The other is website calls from landline, which is fine. However, I'm not seeing any conversion history for 120 days. So potentially it's not working anymore. It says here the conversion tag is inactive. So maybe they lost the phone snippet or they deleted it or something. But regardless, not only is this not working, it's also marked as secondary, when we know leads should be primary. And furthermore, how is calls from the ad extension primary, but the calls from the website aren't being recorded as primary and instead they're marked as secondary? So that's another issue there. Scrolling down further, everything else is mostly fine. There's some outdated conversion goals here from Universal Analytics, which is no longer used. We could remove these, but really not affecting the account or negatively harming it. I would also remove anything that says local actions like directions, other engagements, website views. These are all counting towards primary conversions and definitely skewing the conversion data. We don't need any of these, right? This isn't exactly what the account is aimed for. Even if it's not applied to any campaigns, it's just unnecessary. I like to keep my conversion tracking in accounts pretty clean. So I would delete most of this, to be honest. Yeah, all we really need in here would be the purchase tag, which is purchase revenue sales, and then any lead gen conversion action, which would be forms and phone calls. And further that, I actually didn't even notice this last time, is I don't see anything regarding forms. So they're not even tracking request a quote or people who fill out a form. So that's definitely something. They're definitely missing some conversion goals here in this account. Additionally, we should make sure that enhanced conversions are set up. Looks like it is. Well, I'm not seeing it's verified, so definitely need to ensure enhanced conversions is properly set up. Enhanced conversions for leads should be turned on, and we should also include a default conversion action for phone calls. So in a nutshell, the purchase tracking isn't being used as a primary focus. They're also not tracking website calls or form submissions, and just some generic kind of cleanup in the conversion goal section of the account. All right, next, I like to jump into the settings. So this is going to be both account and campaign settings. So first things first, I always check recommendations. Are we running auto apply? Do we have auto apply turned on, or what's the situation? In this case, they do. They have 5 of the 8 auto apply recommendations set up and enabled. Good thing they don't have all of them accepted and turned on, that's for sure. But skimming through, we could definitely remove these 3. Actually, we could keep remove conflicting negative keywords. I think that one is totally fine. These 2 could certainly go. and then upgrade conversion tracking can stay. So really not a big issue here, but in a nutshell, I do like to keep most and the majority of this turned off. Now we can also check the actual campaign level settings for each one. Off the bat, I already know there's an issue here. I can see by this icon they have some sort of search and display network turned on. And if I go ahead and enable those campaign settings, we're going to see exactly that. Scrolling down, we can see right here, network, they have both the search and display network turned on. So I always urge to turn these off. These are no good for search campaigns. You never want the search or the display network turned on. These should always be turned off. They're going to serve your ads to sites and networks that aren't directly correlated to Google search itself, more like what we consider partner networks, which is usually low quality and spammy. This is where you get a lot of junk and spam leads and wasted ad spend. We can actually see how much they've wasted on those networks by navigating the segment and then network with search partners. Scrolling down, we can go ahead and see, for example, the event furniture hire search campaign. If we scroll over, they've spent $700 on Google search, which is the good network. And then these two are the bad. So they did spend $115 on those two networks that I advise against. And then furthermore, it looks like the other campaigns didn't waste too much money on there. But regardless, that is still $115 over the last 60 days that would be wasted. Looking back at the other networks or the other campaign settings, the conversion goal here is only set to phone calls, which kind of goes back to my previous point is, shouldn't we be focused on purchases and form fills as well? So why are we only optimizing for phone calls here? This should either be adjusted to change the campaign specific goals or just select account default goals once we correct conversion tracking. Scrolling down more, we can see a location they target. They have everything set up through radius. Really not a big issue these days because you can break it down further and see the postal codes or specific areas users are coming from, clicking from, converting from. I'm not a big fan of radius targeting unless necessary though. But if we expand to advanced location options, looks like they did properly set to presence only, which is something I really do kind of urge and push. You never, almost never want to select presence or interest. This will show ads to people who are interested in your targeted area, not directly living or active and living in your target area, right? Scrolling down, maximize conversions, kind of iffy here. Like I said, their conversion goals aren't properly set up. It's not complete. It's not finished. So they do have some skew data. The algorithm may be a little bit inaccurate and tricked. It may benefit to switch to maximize clicks until that's resolved. But for now, it's really not a big issue. This is also something that's so niche that, they don't have a ton of competition from when I was checking earlier. So they can probably get away with that. Automatically created assets, turn it off. Just turn it off. We don't want to run this. It basically just crawls your website and allows Google to make their own site links, add copy, assets and extensions, and other things throughout your content. You can see right here, it basically explains exactly that. I don't like it. It usually generates some pretty wacky stuff. I always turn it off. It's no good. Furthermore, everything else seems to look fine. However, we can check the performance max and we can probably find a lot similar settings. Right here inside of conversion goals, they also do have phone call leads turned on again. Again, should probably correct that. Scrolling down, you can see automatically created assets is turned on as well in the PMAX. Want to turn that off. Everything else here pretty much applies the same per usual. All right, now we can actually break down the campaign to ad group to keyword and everything else kind of structure. So they have a lot of campaigns. They have 3 search campaigns, they have a PMAX and a shopping. I don't think we need a shopping campaign here. We can look at the shopping campaigns data. It's on a very low budget, almost pointless. If you're going to spend less than $10 a day on any campaign, it's pointless. Okay, if there's just zero traction, it's not going to do anything. So at this point, just shut it down. $200, not a single conversion, not even a lead or a sale generated. Just turn it down. So I would recommend turning off the shopping campaign entirely. Now that leads us with these 4 campaigns here. They do have performance max. I think the performance max is actually beneficial here. It has conversions, and I believe it even has gotten a couple sales here. I'll have to check that column here in a minute, but the performance max is fine, so we'll dive deeper on that one. However, for the remaining 3 search campaigns, I think they could probably condense to 2 search campaigns here. They can have 1 search campaign specific to fridge and freezer repair, which is a service they offer I saw through their keywords. And then the other search campaign can just be that kind of like catch all where they're going after event, catering hire, catering equipment hire, event hire, tableware hire. All those other keywords and ad groups can be inside that one search campaign. And we also just want to condense it as much as possible because they do have a really low budget here. $36 a day is really not that much, especially when you separate it out between 5 campaigns. You are severely limiting your reach. One Performance Max campaign, maybe 2 search campaigns here. Nothing more than that, at least for now. All right, let's go ahead and review the Performance Max campaign now, and then we'll go ahead and dive deeper into the actual search campaign. Let's go ahead and pull up the asset groups. All right, inside of the asset groups now, we have 2 live. It looks like I can already see some minor issues off the bat. For me personally, I find that combining these signals into all in one just isn't it. So what I mean by that is you can see here they have search themes or keywords. They have remarketing data. They have Google defined audiences, demographics, signals, and then they have some sort of custom audience that segment in here. It's basically like an all in one catch all asset group, which I just don't like to do. Ideally, you really want to segment out asset groups by search intent or theme, not only just to help general optimization metrics and reviewing data, but it really does help the algorithm and just kind of puts a better grasp on your campaign. This is actually something I did write up for them. I did want to showcase here, which kind of really just highlights what I'm saying here, is that you really should split up your asset group into more granular, specific search intent aligned asset groups. This also allows you to kind of customize the ad copy, the messaging, the images, the assets, whatever it may be, right? Same thing here. They don't have this sort of structure laid out, and I would really push for this structure. So if we hop back, we can break down their signals and take a quick look at it. They have search themes or keywords here. Furthermore, they do have remarketing. Then they have interest signals, demographics, and stuff like that. And then more search themes. Okay, well, let's just look at the table view and just see what has conversions. This asset group here has 5 conversions over the last 60 days. Now, if I asked the client or asked this person and said, hey, where did these 5 conversions come from? They would point to this asset group and say here. And I'd say that's true, but which part of the targeting triggered this? Was it the keyword that triggered these conversions? Was it the remarketing? Or was it the actual Google defined demographic signals? Because it's not split up in this way, we don't know what actually triggered these conversions. For all we know, this could have been triggered by remarketing, and that maybe only was a portion of the budget spent. So if remarketing is triggering or causing these 5 conversions, we should have that separated so we know and can identify that, right? If we go back here, I kind of lay it out exactly how someone like this advertiser could lay it out. They could have a single asset group for interests and detailed demographics, which is where you have those Google defined segments and audiences like wedding planning, people hosting events, event planners, event services, right? We can actually take a look at what some of those look like here and scroll down, and we can edit their existing signal, and we can kind of get a look or a glance into what that means. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here. These interests and detailed demographics, these alone, this whole section, could be its own entire asset group just for more granular targeting. Furthermore, this right here, all visitors, abandoned carts, people who recently interact with your Google ads, stuff like that, aka remarketing. Remarketing could also be its own asset group. Taking a look here, I did also reference we could have additional asset groups for generic targeting keywords, which are just your search themes or keywords such as rent kitchen equipment, event hiring services, catering equipment, maybe catering equipment rental, event equipment rentals, right? That sort of stuff. Another asset group could even be for competitors, people who are searching for your competitors or who have recently interacted with competitor websites. And then again, I emphasize remarketing. Now, on that topic of competitors, you can actually see they have another asset group, which is supposedly called competitors, but they're not doing anything regarding competitive targeting. It's actually just remarketing their own visitors and then utilizing demographics or interest segments and audiences once again. There's zero retargeting of actual competitors or competitor crash the party advertising. So that was also made incorrectly. So honestly, this Performance Max as a whole could totally be overhauled and uplifted in a much better way. All right, now we can go ahead and focus on the last campaign here, which is going to be the search campaign. Scrolling down here, we can see they do actually have ad groups segmented out pretty well. They have a specific ad group for event, furniture, chair hire, table and chair, table hire. We can take a look at their other one, which is table hire. Again, though, as I mentioned previously, between these two search campaigns, there's actually some overlap. So if we go ahead and take a look at the search keywords, not only are they all broad match, which is immediately a concern, at least for me, we can further take a look at the other ones, and you kind of start to notice that there's a lot of overlap here, especially when you look at the campaign level search terms, right? Maybe we sort by impressions here. First off, a lot of irrelevant, low quality, super generic stuff. Bowls, glass hire, hotel wear, glass hire again, wine glass hire. That's really not the intent of this campaign or the company itself. Same thing, checking the search terms for event furniture. It's a little bit better. Actually, it's quite a bit better, to be honest. This is a lot more in line. However, it's still kind of very low intent and hyper generic. At least I would assume it is. So normally I would push against broad match, but because the broad match seems to be yielding some pretty quality search terms here, or at least for what this niche is, I would more so just push for refinement and better structuring. Maybe they can tighten up a couple of the match types, use a little bit of phrase or exact match in some of these keywords, or just have some longer tail. Like for example, chair hire as a broad match keyword is so generic and so broad. Not only is it just broad, but it spent $200 in the last 60 days without any conversions whatsoever. And I'm sure we can identify a lot of underperforming keywords like that at a glance, right? We can just go ahead and pull up the cost column and then compare that with the conversion column. Let's go ahead and filter through that. We go ahead and find the conversion column first, which is right here. We can actually see that a majority of these have not yielded any conversions, or at least based on what they have set as primary conversions. So I'm highlighting everything here that shows 0 conversions, which, as we know, is referencing their phone calls. Scrolling over further, you can see this is pretty much the top performing keywords. Now, if we really wanted to get granular, we could check which type of conversions each keyword has generated. So for example, looks like chair hire has only generated a couple things. Well, on second thought, it has led to 5 purchases, so maybe this is one we keep. Scrolling down more, this one hasn't generated anything fruitful. This one also looks like it hasn't generated anything fruitful. And then this one did generate a couple, well, it generated a call, and it looks like we also got a purchase out of it. So that is why you want to make sure your conversion tracking is aligned, because if we were just going to turn these off solely based on primary conversion goals as per set in the account, we would actually be probably doing it a disservice, because some of these keywords have actually proven to generate some sales or some phone calls. It's just not being marked as a primary conversion. But let's go ahead and go back to the targeting. We know they're pretty broad match heavy in this account. We know they could do some refinement, some better structuring, some better targeting, and all of that. The negative keywords are pretty good. They have a lot in there. I did check that. But another point of my concern was their ad copy. Not only is it bland, but they severely have low click-through rates. If we go ahead and take a look at a majority of these, you can see some of the highest spending ones are hovering around 1 to 2%. Now they do have one that is doing very well, which is around 10%. For the interaction rate or the click-through rate. However, all the others are pretty low. And something I referenced to the client was honestly, would you click your own ad? Especially when you compare the ad copy to the search intent to the actual search terms itself, right? Now the tableware one is good. That one's getting a pretty good click-through rate, right? 12.5%. That is pretty good. However, if we hop over to the search campaign, some of these just really aren't clicking. For example, we have table and chair hire. We can see it's getting a 1.6%. What's the issue? Well, they have keywords in the actual ad copy itself, so that can't be the issue. Let's go ahead and take a look at the search terms generated for this specific asset group, or ad group, sorry. Scrolling down and we see event decorator, linen. Okay, the term rental, maybe they can use the word rental in the ad copy. This is some location specific. So honestly, search terms are mostly pretty in line. However, they do have some off-par or irrelevant search terms they could exclude. Looks like a competitor or some specific brand, outdoor furniture, trestle, and I'm actually sorted by cost now. So for one, I would say the click-through rate is mostly low due to the actual search terms and targeting. If they just tighten up the targeting, like we already mentioned, for the keywords, the match types, whatever it may be, they would probably have a higher click-through rate here, just solely based on the actual search terms itself and what they're showing for, because it's not matching everyone's search intent. Scrolling more, we can kind of breeze through some of the ad copy. It seems fine. I don't like the use of near you in headlines. I think you should keep it location specific. Near you doesn't really mean anything. Where are you based? Yorkshire? Okay. Yorkshire table and chair hire, right? Yorkshire table and chair rentals, those sort of headlines. That, much better. Exceptional customer service. Sometimes some of these headlines are just too redundant. Like, honestly, these three could go. This is so generic. Everyone says this nowadays. Everyone has premium quality or, the best customer service or is top rated or number one. You see that on every ad these days. You got to stand out. You got to get creative or honestly just get straight to the point. What do you do and where are you located, right? Sometimes it is as simple as that. I think that just about will wrap up this audit. If you guys have any comments, questions, or videos you want to see from me, or maybe you even want me to audit your Google Ads account, I'd be more than happy to. Just comment below, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.